You know, when you picture the city of Lucerne with its beautiful lake and the Swiss Alps in the background, it just screams timeless history, right? But what if I told you that a lot of that history isn't quite what it seems? That it's actually a story that's been deliberately written, erased, and then rewritten over and over again for centuries.
Okay, so let's get right into it. The big question we're tackling today is this. How do we actually separate the real, provable history of Lucerne from the powerful story it wants to tell us? To figure that out, we're going to need a special kind of lens.
And that lens is this idea of a palimpsest. Now, just think of Lucerne not as one single, fixed story, but more like an ancient manuscript. With each new chapter in its history, a new author comes along, scrapes away some of the old ink, and writes their own story right on top. But if you look closely enough, you can still see the faint traces of everything that came before.
So that's our mission in this explainer. We're going to peel back these layers of the manuscript. We're going to dig into four main ones: its really deep, recently discovered prehistoric past, its rise as a medieval powerhouse, the creation of its legendary national myths, and its clever use of modern nostalgia.
All right, let's start at the very bottom with the deepest and, funnily enough, the most recently uncovered layer. This one completely changed the first chapter of the city's entire story.
See, for hundreds of years, everyone just assumed Lucerne's history kicked off in the Middle Ages. But then, a recent discovery just blew that timeline out of the water, adding more than 2,000 extra years to its story.
Yep, you heard that right. In 2021, archaeologists stumbled upon an ancient settlement of pile dwellings from 3400 BCE. Just like that, this single discovery took what everyone thought was an empty spot in history and proved it was a place with a seriously deep past. It just goes to show you, even the oldest layers of the palimpsest can suddenly be rewritten.
Okay, so moving up from that super ancient foundation, we hit the next layer, the one with actual written records. This is where the medieval city starts to carve out its own destiny.
The key moment here is the year 1332. Lucerne makes this massive strategic decision. It decides to break away from the super-powerful Habsburg dynasty and team up with the rural Swiss cantons. So why'd they do it? Well, it was a calculated gamble for two things: money and freedom. They wanted to control the very profitable trade route through the Gotthard Pass and lock down their own political independence. Now, this new alliance got put to the test, and fast. In 1386, at the Battle of Sempach, a tiny Swiss force of about 1,500 soldiers went up against a massive Habsburg army of around 5,000 soldiers, and the Swiss won. It was a shocking, unbelievable victory, a real historical event that secured their power. But how this victory was remembered, well, that's where the next layer gets written right on top of the facts.
Okay, this is where things get really fascinating. This is the layer where historical fact gets consciously painted over with powerful nation-building myths.
So get this, when you look at the very first records written about the Battle of Sempach, they don't talk about amazing heroes. They explain the incredible win very simply. It was a miracle, a literal act of God.
I mean, think about it. You really can't. A new, growing nation needs heroes. It needs human stories of incredible bravery and sacrifice to build its character. Divine intervention is great and all, but it doesn't really give people a relatable identity to rally around.
So, a new story had to be written. More than a century after the battle, the legend of a guy named Arnold von Winkelried suddenly appears. He's the hero who supposedly sacrificed himself, throwing his body onto the enemy's long pikes to create an opening for the Swiss army. The thing is, he's nowhere to be found in the original accounts. He was created to serve a purpose, to give a human, heroic face to that impossible victory, turning a miracle into a foundational myth of Swiss self-sacrifice.
Right, let's jump way forward now, to the 19th century. The Industrial Revolution is in full swing, and Lucerne adds a new layer to its identity, one that very cleverly mixes the cutting-edge future with a romanticized version of the past.
What you're seeing here is a fascinating paradox. During the Belle Epoque era, Lucerne was all in on brand new technology, like building Europe's very first cogwheel railway. Super innovative stuff, but look at how they packaged it. The new train station, it was a modern steel structure on the inside, but on the outside, they gave it this grand, historic, almost cathedral-like face.
And this quote just nails the strategy, doesn't it? The city's leaders understood that the faster they modernized, the more they needed to sell their history. This blend of progress and nostalgia wasn't an accident. It was a deliberate choice, a way to attract wealthy tourists by giving them all the comforts of the modern world, wrapped up in the romance of a timeless past.
Now, this deep commitment to its physical history was put to the ultimate test in our own time. A tragic event in 1993 really proved, once and for all, that for Lucerne, its historical identity isn't just nice to have, it's a priceless asset.
On August 18, 1993, a fire ripped through the Kapellbrücke, Europe's oldest wooden-covered bridge, and the absolute heart of the city. Two-thirds of this incredible 14th-century landmark, along with dozens of its historic paintings, just gone. The sense of loss was immense.
But the city's response was immediate and incredibly decisive. They spent 3.4 million Swiss francs to rebuild the bridge to its exact original design, and they did it in less than a year. Now, this wasn't just a repair job. It was a massive symbolic statement that said loud and clear, in Lucerne, our tangible, physical history is a cultural asset, and we will protect it at any cost.
So when you put all these layers together, you realize Lucerne's story isn't a simple timeline. It's a living, breathing process. It's this constant dance between rewriting the past based on new discoveries, creating myths to build a national identity, and using nostalgia as a strategy to shape its place in the modern world.
In the end, Lucerne really is a living palimpsest. And the story is still being written, whether it's by archaeologists digging up new origins or by preservation groups keeping old traditions alive. To truly understand this city is to see that every single bridge, every legend, and every mountain view is part of a story that is both ancient and, at the same time, being created new every single day.